Ayan na. Kamusta kayo dyan, mga ka-Haydarian? Dahil live po tayo sa iba't ibang mga platforms natin ngayon. Of course, mga new friends natin dyan, mga ka-spacers dyan sa Twitter. Space Jam! Booyaka siya in the house. Kamusta naman kayo dyan, mga ka-YouTubers? And of course, ating mga minamahal na nandyan sa Facebook, mga ka-Meta. I hope everyone is doing well. Everyone is doing well. So pag-usapan natin ito, may announcement yung ating napakagaling na ex-president. Ito isang presidente na sinasabi na nila na henyo. Ito daw yung Sun Tzu, Art of War, Bismarck, Clausewitz, lahat, all in one. Napoleonic level genius. Yan po yung sinabi ng mga supporters ng ating previous president who, as far as factual reality, not alternative universe, best president in the solar system is concerned. No. We're talking about our universe and our solar system. Well, last time I checked, I'm not sure the foreign policy of the previous president was really a stellar, fantastic, art of war, Clausewitz, I don't know, Bismarckian, Prussian, successful level as they say. Pag-usapan natin very shortly etong track record ng ating napakagaling na dating presidente who of course keeps a very vocal stance pagdating sa West Philippine Sea issue because in many ways, whether you like him or not, whether wag na tayo pumunta sa Magellan Jr. Top. Whether gusto niya siya or hindi, in fairness to the current president, he's correcting a lot of the excesses and mistakes from the past, including, and I would say most prominently, notably, and most, I would say, least ambiguous improvement pagdating sa correction of excesses under previous administration concern. So if you look at it, it's really on the foreign policy front where we see that President Marcos Jr. is doing a lot of moves that has been welcomed, including by a lot of his critics, by a lot of people who are very pessimistic about how things are going to turn out under post-Duterte, under Junior Marcos era. Now, let's go to this. So, breaking news ito kanina, ang ating previous president had once again, surprise, warning, dahil syempre, siya po ay may direct communication sa kanyang mga kaibigan. Yan, mga Chinese envoy. Yan, talagang mga beshies niya, beshies. Beshi in the house, beshi in the house. So, ayon sa ating ex-president, very popular, very magaling. Yan, sabi niya. Ito. Ayon sa kanya, ito, once again, hindi ito na-confirm ng ating mga minamahal na neighbor, no? Hindi pa nila na-confirm. Pero ayon sa ating presidente, ito po ay gikan sa masa, para sa masa, aired on international level SMN9 News. Ito po yung sinabi ng ating Pangulo, dating Pangulo, someone say thankfully, that the Philippines will not be spared if it allows the United States to utilize its military installations in the country to launch an aggressive action against China. Wow, victim talaga ng China. Kawawa naman sila. So, ayon sa ating presidente dun sa kanyang very, very high level, current affairs, foreign affairs show, next level, Pulitzer level, ito yung sinabi niya. I reminded him, Chinese ambassador, referring to Chinese ambassador, again, that the Philippines does not have a quarrel with China. Ayan, sabi lang. But his answer to me was, if you provide places where there can be an aggressive action to China, the Philippines will always be a target. Wow. Ano ba ito? Verbatim ba ito? Sinulat bang ng ating mahal na presidente? Ito ba ang kanyang photographic? Alam na yan. Ayon sa kanya, I am not a lackey of China. Oy, wala kaming sinabi dyan, ha? Wala akong sinabi. Defensive naman to. Wala akong sinabi, ha? Wala kaming sinabi, wala kaming sinasabi. Ito yung sinabi ng ating dating Pangulo. Hindi daw siya lucky of China. Of course, it's very obvious. Very independent. Very assertive sa West Philippine Sea nung time na siya yung presidente. Ito sabi niya, I am not a lucky of China. Wait lang ha. Kailangan natin magkape. para yung energy level natin makayanan natin to. Ito. Going back to what our former president said, I am not a lackey of China. Okay, let that sink in. I do not want to be subservient to any country. Okay, let that sink in. Neither would I be a protector or spokesman of America. Of course, none of us are. I am just a Filipino. Of course, just the ex-president who, oversaw a lot of things, no? He urged governments of the Philippines and U.S., ito yung dating Pangulo, to inform the Filipino people about the U.S. military bases under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement that have actually been established in the country. I actually agree with President Duterte, ex-President Duterte. Yes, there should be transparency, there should be an honest national conversation about EDCA, gaano kalaki ba yung maging military presence ng US dyan, ano yung maging operational parameters, anong magiging size, nature ng mga weapon systems na ipaproposition nila. Those are important things. And so I agree with the former president that we need more transparency and proper national discourse around this issue without, of course, undermining our national security and things that are supposed to be kept between two allies. No. Of course, si Paolo Duterte, when he was in office, he did not allow yung EDCA to be fully implemented. So for instance, he did not allow the Americans to preposition weapon systems. So medyo lagging yung implementation of EDCA, even if he did not get rid of EDCA, something that he could have done, because EDCA is not a treaty. It's not ratified by the Philippine Senate. Forget about US Senate, which really doesn't ratify a lot of international treaties, including UNCLOS. But ibang usapan niyan. Now, going back to this, so he had the power to actually get rid of EDCA. Siguro dahil sa mga kaibigan natin dyan sa military, siguro napaisip siya, it's too much if I get rid of EDCA. He tried also with VFA, of course, he had to walk it back eventually. But going back to this, the president, of course, dragged his foot on the implementation of EDCA while in office. So that gave China a lot of advantages. So China had a lot of strategic impunity during that time. And pag-usapan natin, some of the kababalakan na nangyari sa West Philippines yung panon na yan. So I said, by granting America several bases, I think sinabi ni Pangulo Duterte, no? We can be sure, and I'm sure as the sun will rise in the east, that these nuclear bases will have nuclear warheads. Like, okay, that's a big claim. Alright? That's a big claim. So the ex-president is claiming that, what? Maglalagay sila ng nuclear weapons? Come on! Come on! Come on! Pakita nga ng evidence. Baka ano naman yan, ha? Baka parang ito yung mga 3 to 6 months na naman mga claim. Parang jets. Guys, wag na kalimutan. Ito yung nagsabi niya mag-jet ski siya sa West Philippine Sea. So sabi niya, he fears that the next war or wars will be fought mainly using nuclear warheads. Wow, very, very sharp political, strategic, military analysis. Ayon kay dating Pangulo, we don't know because of EDCA, they're bringing in some right now. There's no accounting of the weapons in the hands of Americans to use against China if war breaks out, but we can be sure, and it would be stupid for us or so naive to think that there is none. Depends, I'm not very sure about that claim. That's a tall claim. Now, obviously, we have concerns about, in the past, superpowers storing either nuclear weapons or getting rid of nuclear waste dun sa ating karagatan. I agree that in the past we had that concerns, but Mr. President, this is not 1960s, this is not 1980s, this is 2023. Things are not exactly the same, and I don't think it's a foregone conclusion na the Americans will do what they used to do in the 20th century in the 21st century. That's not necessarily a given. So sometimes I wonder if the president is updating on the realities in the 21st century, because some of the things he's talking about are relevant in the 20th century. Maraming ginawang mali ang mga Amerikano sa Pilipinas. 100%. That's true. Marami, aside from, of course, horrible colonization and everything like that. But let's not jump to conclusions and say, given na yan, wag tayo naive. Like, things are not the same. We're not the same country as in the 1980s. We don't have permanent US bases anymore. And we shouldn't, and we wouldn't as much as possible. So I think we have to be clear about a number of things here, that sometimes I wonder if the president is talking about 2023 or he's talking about 1923. Or to be a little bit more polite, is he talking about 1983, before we were born, any of us were born, no? So ayon sa ating mahal na dating Pangulo, you, referring to the United States, who are further away, have anti-missiles. Missiles? Okay, that's a very technical way of putting it. You can shoot them down before they can enter your space. The problem is here in the Philippines, what are the stakes for us? Well, first of all, again, I have some issues. Is the president referring to missile defense systems? I think the president has to do some research on the new missile systems that are coming out that are very hard to shut down. And guess what? Russia and China are among the two countries. I'm talking about the ito yung mga hypersonic missile systems. No? Anyway, mamaya na tayo mag-briefing kay dating Pangulo about the latest developments in the 21st century pagdating sa military. Alright, ito yung mga Mach 6, Mach 7, hypersonic, more than supersonic. So, i-forward ko lang kay Pangulo yung Financial Times analysis ng implications ng hypersonic missile that is being developed by China, by the way, not the United States. The US is behind the curve actually on this front. Ayon sa Pangulo, he said nuclear weapons could affect a wide area, leaving radioactive materials that could last for 50 years. Like, alright, medyo ano na tayo, dystopian. At ayon sa kanya, it would not only be destructive, I believe that the Philippines would be a graveyard if war comes out. Remember that. Ayan, nag-warning na ating Pangulo. Ating very expert na Pangulo. Ayon sa kanya, may mga tinatawag na anti-missiles. Sir, medyo missile defense system na tawag dyan. At sir, medyo mag-update tayo sa hypersonic missiles. And by the way, mag-update tayo ng konti kasi 2023 na po, hindi na po 1983 or 1923. Alright, so let's keep some of the things in context. Now, I'm just gonna say that, in fairness to President Duterte, he has all the rights to emphasize the need for us to make sure na hindi tayo maging tuta ng any power, including United States, na hindi mangyari yung mga kababalaghan in the past. I agree with the President, former President on that front. But, I just don't know what he's trying to do. If the Chinese envoy has something to say, maybe he can say it himself, why does Duterte have to speak for them? I mean, ayon sa kanya, he's not a lackey of China, so why is he speaking out for them? If the good ambassador has something to say, say it. I mean, this is the same ambassador who, by the way, said something about OFWs in Taiwan, right? Just to put things in the context. Very vocal naman pala tong ambassador niya. Di magsalita siya. Now, let's just talk about a number of basic facts. Now, should we take these claims by the president, ex-president, seriously? Just putting into context, this is the same president who said that if we're nice to China, no? Yeah, let's look at. If we are meek and humble, okay? Ito yung sinabi niya. Mamaya na yung province of China joke niya. But ito yung sinabi niya seryoso, ah. Hindi ito biro. Ay, sinabi niya talaga, if the Philippines remains meek and humble, no, sabi niya, we can get mercy from China. Wow, napaka, definitely not lacking. So, ito yung sinabi niya, ito post natin dito, I can post of course the links. Ito yung sinabi niya, back in the day, in the earlier years of his presidency, sabi niya, kung meek tayo and humble, like, meek, oh. I haven't heard any president saying that, you know, I was like, sabi niya, kung meek and humble tayo, maging mabait ng China sa atin. He talked about massive investments. Yung Clark, Manila, high-speed railway, mga ganyan-ganyan. Mindanao Railway, ganan-ganan. Guess what? All the way into the pandemic years, nada, zilch. Wala. Dun sa mga big-ticket investments, nada, zilch. I'm not talking about yung mga refurbishing some Pasig River Bridge, tapos yung mga workers, contractors, lahat galing sa kanila. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about real big-ticket, like Clark, Subic, I don't know, Manila High-Speed Railway. I'm talking about billions of dollars of infrastructure investments. Nasaan na po? Oh, and so, yeah, we're just looking at track record here just before we get too excited about things, no? Ito rin yung presidente nung panahon niya na nagkaroon tayo ng mga kababalagan sa Reed Bank or Recto Bank. The situation was so bad, a Chinese militia vessel, suspected Chinese militia vessel, nag-ram into siya doon sa Denver, at in a moment of frustration, sinabi nung captain nung Filipino vessel na ano ba tayo, mga alipin ba tayo, no? So this is how bad the situation was during that time. Zero concessions in the West Philippine Sea. Lumala yung situation actually sa West Philippine Sea. Yung militarization ay lumala. For anyone who bothers to actually keep updated, the situation in West Philippine actually got worse. Just when this person was saying, let's be meek and humble, and there was no any big investments that came in, real investments, real big investments, not yung mga pichugin right and left here. All right? So let's be absolutely clear about some basic facts here. All right? So we had 6 years of soft peddling by the former president, just to be nice about this and polite about this. And in exchange, we got zero concessions in the West Philippine Sea. The South China Sea situation got worse. More militarization meaning more Chinese militia being deployed to bully others. More militarization. And on the economic front, if you want to talk about trade, even during Panahon ni Pinoy, we had huge trade with China. So the trade was actually on an upward trajectory. So nothing really special there. And by the way, this trade is more into benefit of China than us. We're running huge deficits to China. So they're earning more out of exporting to us than us importing from them, right? That was not the situation 20, 30 years ago. And the other thing is, where are the big ticket investments? That's why I always said, wag kayo maniwala dun sa mga opposition that say pledge trap, debt trap, debt trap. No, no, no. I said, what debt trap? That trap happens if there are massive investments. There was no massive investments. It was what I call a pledge trap. Pangako lang, wala naman nangyari. Right? So, now the Chinese have their own blame game, and I think sometimes I kind of see where they're coming from. They talk about yung bureaucracy daw natin, yung corruption sa atin. Like, given na yan. But the fact of the matter remains that 2023 na, 2016 pa lang we were promised $24 billion. Nasaan na yan? Right? I'm talking about infrastructure, big ticket investments. So West Philippine Sea militarization was almost completed by 2018, 2019. Now, you want to blame Aquino? You want to blame Obama? You want to blame US for all of these things? Come on. Let's be adults and take some responsibility, or at least admit natin na pumalpak talaga itong pivot to, alam niyo na, di ba? Doon naman sa Russia, dalawang bisita sa Russia, Moscow visit, everything like that, ano nakuha natin? Not a single major oil and gas. I'm talking about before Ukraine war, right? By the time Ukraine war happened, it was almost impossible for us to get things because of sanctions and all. But before Ukraine war, isang helicopter man lang hindi natin nakuha, sobrang delayed. And to be honest, after what's happened in Ukraine, do you really want to have weapons from, you know? So I'm just saying, I'm not sure about how much credibility this person has to give advice to BBM on foreign policy matters. Now, I'm not definitely endorsing BBM through and through, but there's no but. Let's be also clear, on foreign policy, I would say BBM is more experienced in international affairs, more cosmopolitan, more globally oriented, and more informed and updated, and I think dynamic than the previous president. BBM is someone who accompanied his parents during major trips to China in the 1970s. Habang, I don't know, mayor pa ba siya? He was not even a mayor, the other president I'm talking about. The other one, as an heir apparent, he was already meeting Mao Zedong. All right? Let me show you the pictures. I mean, come on. Yun yung, bata pa lang siya, he already met world leaders, right? So, to be honest, the one who should give advice to the previous president is the current president. Again, I'm not choosing between the two of them, but I would say on foreign policy, definitely, parang Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, hindi naman. No, but I don't think the current president needs advice, especially from the previous president, no, on dealing with great power relations, etc. Right? Ito, I picture, on 1974 pa lang, BBM was already meeting Mao Zedong, etc. So in terms of dealing with China, in terms of dealing with the US, in terms of dealing with superpowers, Marcos Jr. has way more experience and understanding of the world than si Mayor. No? So I'm just being honest about it. This is not to say that BBM is 100% correct on foreign policy. I'm just saying, if you want to give advice, give it to someone actually who doesn't know as much as you or less than you. But in this case, I think it's, and I love how the former president barely talks about the bullying that is happening in the West Philippines or the threats to Taiwan. That, by the way, is not coming from the United States. It's not the US which is bullying the Philippines in the West Philippine Sea. Hindi po ang United States ay nagthreaten ng invasion sa Taiwan. So, let's get that clear. Let's get the basic facts clear. As much as, of course, we have to make sure itong EDCA na yan ay hindi mag-compromise ng ating sovereignty. Siguraduhin natin itong EDCA na yan ay hindi magdadala ng mga kung ano ng weapons na delikado sa ating karagatan, sa ating the tao, nature, etc. Of course, I'm talking about nuclear waste, for instance. But I think the president is jumping to conclusions based on his understanding of what was happening 50 years ago rather than what's happening 2023. Naalala niyo yung sinabi ni Bato, di ba, yung sidekick niya na, uy, kailangan natin kumuha ng rent. Like I said, basahin niyo yung EDCA, nandun clear sa article na there's gonna be no rent because it's not a permanent base agreement deal. So, sometimes this is my issue. I hope some people do some basic research or try to update a little bit from 1980s to 2020s before making some very confident, very, very sure statements. And by the way, some of these people actually have a track record in foreign policy, which is not really among the most stellar, to put it nicely, right? We talked about the zero real big ticket infrastructure investment came. We were talking about the zero concessions that we got in the West Philippine Sea. So with that zero and Itlog, there as your track record, a little bit of humility will be helpful. Now, of course, sasabihin niyo, paano mo alam mo? Guess what? Everything I wrote about what's going to happen with China, etc., it kind of came true. I said none of these big investments are going to come true. I wrote this back in 2018, 2017. I was already talking about it. Just go to Bloomberg, Inquirer, everywhere. I was quoted there. I can show you. I can send you the links. We predicted a lot of things that is going to happen. All right. Now, and for some of us, we already meet world leaders. Just to check on my Twitter, some of our followers are ex-prime ministers, ambassadors. So there's a reason why these people respect us, right? Because kind of we know what we're talking about, right? We don't get everything 100% right, but we kind of know what we're talking about, and sometimes we have to call out when we hear a lot of nonsense. Now, going back to the Philippines, park muna natin itong tatay geopolitics. Let's talk about bravery and patriotism. So one of the interesting that has been happening over the past few days or so is that there's a push right now to take. So on one hand, you have people are speaking in behalf of China and saying, "Hoy, hinay tayo, kawawa naman ng China." Alright, so alam niyo na sino mga yan. On the other hand, you have other people that are pushing the envelope and telling Marcos Jr. to actually even be more assertive on the foreign policy front, on the South China Sea front, on the West Philippine Sea front. And one of them is actually Senator Riza Hontiveros. So she recently pushed for a resolution in the Senate. I'll tell you why this is interesting, because Riza Hontiveros is not the only one doing that. Apparently, Duterte's former political advisor and the current senator actually is backing that up. So, ito yun na. So, may resolution na ina-advocate ni Senator Hontiveros kung saan, sabi niya, this is just today. This is today, guys. This is today. Okay, Thursday, June 29, no? Today yan. Alright? Sinabi niya, so dito so nagpo-push sila na ang Pilipinas, meaning the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Marcos administration, ang sinasabi ni Hontiveros is dapat to take the West Philippine Sea issue, yung bullying issues, yung ating arbitration award under the United Nations Convention of the Sea, right? Article 287, Annex 7, basahin yan, mag-research muna kayo bago kayo magsalita dyan. Alright? She's saying we have to take this to the United Nations General Assembly in the same way Ukraine took the invasion of Russia to the United Nations General Assembly and got supermajority support. You know? Like, sino lang bang nag-side sa Russia when the resolution was passed on the Ukraine invasion last year? Eritrea, North Korea, Syria, yung mga ganyan bansa, di ba? No offense. So, sabi ni Riza Hontiveros, I am positive that the majority of my colleagues in the Senate will support this resolution. In fact, I look forward to and I'm grateful for Senate President Mig Zubiri's text to my resolution will be scheduled for adoption. Now, where things get interesting is that, just to give you a background, the proposal to take it to the next level, na hindi lang tayo kampante lang dun sa arbitration award natin in 2016, and by the way, the anniversary is coming soon, July 12. So actually, former Justice Carpio, who was a legal advisor during the Ramos administration, who was there when the initial bullying was happening already in Panginiban Reef, moving forward, we're talking about Associate Justice Carpio, former Associate Justice Carpio, who was involved in one way or another in fighting for the West Philippine Sea and also arbitration case at The Hague under UNCLOS. Let's be absolutely clear about it, under UNCLOS, right? And just basic facts, China has ratified UNCLOS, so they're bound by it, and it's not up to them to say where exactly they have to have exemptions or not. So I explained all of these things. I can send you the links on all the legal and political explanations. But anyway, yes, U.S. Senate has not ratified, but the U.S. government follows UNCLOS as a matter of customary international law. So actual behavior is even more important here, right? But anyway, going back to this, Justice Carpenter for quite some time has been saying that dapat next level na tayo. Dapat may follow through. So one of his proposals is to sue Chinese companies around the world, state-owned companies around the world, for the damages that other Chinese companies did, for instance, to the West Philippine Sea, to the coral reefs, the environmental damage, everything that was affirmed by the arbitration award in 2016. So that was the proposal of Justice Carpio, to push it to the next level. Another proposal he made, and he has been making, and he reiterated that last May in a forum, was to take the issue to the United Nations General Assembly. No? So Riza Hontiveros is coming in and echoing that. Don't worry, I'll give my comment on that soon. But I'm just giving you the big picture, which is, on one hand, you have the Tatay geopolitics, and then on the other hand, you have these people who are pushing for more aggressive positioning on the South China Sea kumpara sa ating kasalukuyan na administrasyon. No? So Justice Carter was pushing that. Now, Rizal Antiveros saying, yes, I think it's time na naayos na natin yung relasyon natin sa mga traditional allies, nag-assert na tayo ng ating claims, nangyaring ilang bullying incidents this year pa lang, Philippine Coast Guard is speaking out, AFP is speaking out, is modernizing, even BBM has made it clear now we have no territorial disputes because the Chinese claim in our areas has no basis in international law, and now with the EDCA and all of those things, ang sinasabi nila Antiveros is time to level up. So just as our very magaling people in Department of Tourism said, level up na tayo, huwag na yung mga more fun in the Philippines lang, mag-love, love, love na tayo. So sinasabi din ng iba, level up na tayo. Meron na tayong arbitration award, we have a legal precedents, we have kind of a jurisprudence around this issue, let's bring it to the next level, let's bring it to the United Nations General Assembly. Now, what makes this actually interesting is that this is not just emanating from quote-unquote opposition quarters. I mean, obviously we know who Hontiveros and Carpi have been. I mean, these are more the Lenny camp, right? Opposition camp in the last elections. But, interestingly, the other person actually who supported this is the former presidential advisor to Duterte and current senator and triple master's degree. Well, congratulations kay Senator. May bago na naman siyang master's degree from Columbia University. Yan. This is Francis Tolentino, right? Tama ba? Nakuha ko ba? Yeah, so for quite some time, interestingly, someone very close to the former president Duterte is now pushing for the Philippines to have more solid alliances, including a new quad with Japan, Australia, and US. Something that, people like me were kind of mentioning back in the day, but I'm glad. It's nice to see a former Duterte top advisor making this suggestion, so that means there's a recognition na the Tatay way perhaps is not the way, or perhaps it didn't work. But more interestingly, but wait lang, muntik lumabas yung kaldero na. More interesting, Senator Tolentino is actually also supporting, right? He's also supporting etong resolution and proposal for us to take the West Philippine Sea issue to the United Nations General Assembly. So it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting that someone who was the former political advisor of Duterte, current senator, triple masters, right, is open. No, it's not inimical, but open to suggestions of leveling this up, bringing this to the United Nations. So let me just get direct quotes, no? Direct quotes from Senator Antiveros. I think may comments din sila Jingo Estrada, etc. We can talk about that. Oh, wow! Interestingly, so even Jingo Estrada supports this apparently. Okay. Alright, this is interesting. Okay, so it's not just... Marami pala sila. So, Senator J.V. Ejercito joins Senators Rizal Antiveros and Francis Tolentino in urging the Department of Foreign Affairs to file a resolution seeking UN General Assembly's action to compel Beijing to respect the 2016 Arbitrary Tribunal ruling that recognized Manila's rights in the West Philippine Sea. Okay, so ito yung sinabi nila. Ito yung sinabi ni Senator J.V., the good one, right? China claims to be an ally and a friend, but it's harassing our fisher folk, right? So, they're not acting as a friend. Kaya nga, yung minsan yung sinasabi na friends to all, enemy to none. Ano to? High school Mr. Congeniality contest? I mean, you cannot be friends to people who act like enemies or like bullying you. Right? And you have to be really friends with those who act like friends, right? Anyway, putting that aside, yung mga corny slogans na mga ganun na semi-plagiarized actually from Singapore for some of us who bothered to research about these things. And ayon kay JV, we need to exhaust all diplomatic means to protect our claim over the West Philippine Sea. Right? Okay. Now, interestingly, the brother, Senator Jingo Estrada, shared Ejercito's view. Ayan na talagang brothers in the house. He expressed support for a Senate resolution that Hontiveros had filed earlier, calling on the DFA to seek General Assembly's action to end China's harassment of Philippine vessels. Sorry. So this was actually resolution was passed earlier this month. Middle of this month, but the PO press release also came out just recently. No, actually, I saw that today. No, ayon naman kay Jingoy, if that is the only way to stop China's bullying, then go ahead. Let's see what the United Nations General Assembly can do to help us. No, so you are seeing even people close to the Digong camp before, at least they're all coming out and saying something about this. That something has to be done, right? And ito naman kay Tolentino. Sabi niya, there's nothing wrong with Justice Carpio's suggestion as it will really make this an international issue. Well, I mean, he knows something about public international law, perhaps, etc. And so you see, uh, Senator Tolentino, Senator Ejercito, Senator Estrada. These are not opposition people. These are not quote unquote Dilawan or Pingwa, whatever. But they see the value of the Philippines taking it to the next level. Now, just to be honest about my stand on this issue, again, I'm honestly I'm a little bit skeptical about this working in the UN General Assembly in the sense that alam niyo naman maraming bansa dyan na beshi ng China dahil depende sa China. So in ASEAN, if your worry is you know which countries, guess what? You go to Africa, you go to Latin America, you go to not Eastern Europe anymore, but parts of the Middle East and Central Asia. I'm not sure they're gonna side with us, but you may get a plurality of countries on our side. So one of my suggestion is track, for instance, yung kasi depende rin yun sa how we're gonna frame the resolution. So if the resolution, I think, is framed in a very sharp way that directly attacks China and essentially brands China as outlaw, I think marami mag-abstain dyan. Mahirap. But I think if it's framed in a much more generalistic sense, which reaffirms the coastal states' rights per international law, because the argument of Justice Carpi is maraming malilit na bansa dyan who have an interest, a stake in rule of law rather than rule of jungle. But I think the frame of the resolution will be important. And at least I'm confident we have brilliant people there in our UN office there, yung DFA representative natin. They're really smart people. I had a chance to interact them in the past. I want to say something, but never mind. So the frame of the resolution matters. I think if we get a moderate framing that somehow calls China, but not just China, but overall says that we have to uphold international law, rule-based order in sense that it protects the rights, sovereign rights, exclusive economic zone, extended continental shelf of smaller states, we might get a lot of countries on our side. I don't know majority, but big plurality, yes. I think 50, 60, 70 countries. It's doable. But if you're pushing for a resolution that openly calls out China, etc., all China has to do is, alam niyo na, di ba? It has a lot of leverage internationally. If you don't believe me, look at the international reaction when the arbitration award came in 2016. I was in Europe not long after the arbitration award came out. And even inside EU, there were certain countries, I'm not sure if it's Greece, like, there were a number of countries in EU that, because of their dependence on China, right, they were uncomfortable with the first drafts that came out. No, so that's why it took 3 days or almost 3 days. July 15, 2016, palang lumabas ang EU with their statement. So one reason it took EU a long time is because even some of the EU members were not comfortable with something that openly antagonizes China because of their dependence on China. Of course, many things have changed since 2016, but what I'm saying is we have to be realistic with the fact that China has a lot of influence with a lot of African, post-colonial, Latin American countries. I mean, just to give you numbers, China's trade with Latin America was barely beyond $10 billion at the beginning of this century. Barely within a generation, it's now $400 billion plus. So many countries depend on China. So I think, with all due respect to some of our friends there, I think we have to be realistic that we might not get a majority sa UN General Assembly. But if we frame it in a, alam niyo na, in a Goldilocks way, not too hot attacking China openly, but not too cold of making it just, blah blah blah, then I think we can get a huge plurality, and that in itself I think could be just good enough to give us an initial kind of boost and ammunition, and also to remind the world that there's actually an arbitration award here, and some people are acting as outlaws, and to remind the world that when it comes to the West Philippines issue, it is not as Harry R or whatever people. It's not about an intramural between the superpowers. No, this is about the rights of smaller countries like the Philippines. Ito po ay ukol sa ating karapatan, right? Yung ayaw natin mabuli, no? Ayaw natin na madadaan lang ito sa sinong pinaka, alam niyo na, di ba? Connect the dots. No. We want to make it a bit different, right? So Tatay Digong, alam mo na, medyo magpadala ako ng mga updates dyan, ha? Medyo update tayo dyan, ha? Hypersonic missile, hindi tawag dyan anti-missile, missile defense system tawag ko dyan. Mamaya natin pag-usapan yan, alright? At dun sa claim na automatically maglalagay ng nuclear weapons ang US sa mga base natin sa ilalim ng EDCA. I don't know saan galing itong mga intelligence na yan, right? And if the Chinese envoy in the Philippines has something to say, go ahead, sir. Anyway, you are very open about your views on Taiwan and OFWs in Taiwan. Maybe you want to tell us something about EDCA. Why should the mayor talk in your behalf? Sabi nga ni mayor, I'm not a lackey of ano, di ba? Anyway, mabait tayo, guys. Sabi nga natin, love. Love the Philippines. Speaking of love the Philippines, may mga nagka-comment dyan, including some of our good friends, journalist friends na medyo sticklers, mga medyo sedulous, medyo editor type. Sabi na, actually, pwede pa i-rescue ito kung nilagay mo ng comma. Parang, love the Philippines. So, nilagay mo ng comma. Ganun. Ako sabi ko, parang, love, tapos comma, tapos the Philippines, and then lagay mo ng exclamation na parang, love, Philippines! Parang, don't forget about the Philippines. Come to the Philippines. Dapat ganun ang dating. Hindi yung, mahalin mo ang Pilipinas or else. Ganun, hindi ganun, di ba? Yung parang ginigigil mo, tapos pag nagreklamo, huwag kang magreklamo. Yung mga ganun na. Alam niyo na yan, di ba? Alam niyo na mga kameta. Kay Spacers, kay YouTubers, i.e., Kahaydarians, Kahays, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. I hope you enjoyed our prognostications, our deconstruction, medyo Derrida, medyo nag-deconstruct tayo ng mga latest na prognostications ni Tatay Digong. But I think I needed to remind you guys because I just don't feel, again, I'll say this again, I just don't feel big moves by senators like Senator Rizal Tiveros is getting as much mileage, media mileage as it should get because, and I mean media mileage not in a spin doctor PR way. I mean it in a, like, hey, she just passed for a very important resolution which talks about ano bang dapat next hanggang anniversary ano lang tayo ng arbitral tribunal ruling every year. Hindi, dapat may next level na, may next move na eh. So, I think it was a very good move by Rizal Tiveros and see, the brothers, the good one, the other one, dating political advisor ni Digong, lahat sila sumusuporta sa Senado. So, interesting times. Interesting times. Alright? So on that note, I'll keep it there. Are there any questions for our friends dito sa mga ka-spacers natin dyan? Maraming sumasali sa atin ng mga ka-spacers. Thank you very much again. Ayan, maraming mga love dyan ng mga supporters natin. Thank you very much for your support. Really, really appreciate it. Very, very kind of you. Ayan. Oh. Nagtanong yung isa, kailan mo maging guest si Gadon? Oy guys, wag ganon. Secretary Gadon. Sabi niya nga, mas sweet pakinggan ng secretary kahit hindi na siya attorney. Alright? Ex-attorney / secretary Gadon. I'll pass. Next time na lang. I'll pass. Marami akong ibang gustong unahin muna, alright? I'll pass muna on that. But thank you for the suggestion. Para mas gusto ko intervene tourism secretary. Pag-usapan natin itong love. Yan. Showbiz mode. Let's go. That's it. Alright. Nasaan na yung mga iba? Nasaan na yung mga kameta natin? Nawala na kayo Ayan. Huwag mo nang i-guess yan, please, sabi niya. Wala akong sinabi. Yung mga taga-YouTube, pasaway talaga yung mga taga-YouTube na yan. Yung mga ka-spacers, ano comment niyo dyan? Tahimik naman, mabait itong mga ka-spacers natin, Ayan. Diba, guys? Ito, I'll be very honest, diba? Ito talagang pinakamalapit sa puso ko na topic. West Philippine Sea, okay? Pinaghirapan namin yan ng 6 years ng panahon ni Digong. Talagang we fought for this. You don't know how much trolling and crazy attacks and even legal harassment at some point we got for standing up for our rights dyan sa West Philippine Sea. So talagang malapit sa puso ko yan kasi pinaghirapan talaga namin yan. And I'm so proud! So proud! The Tatay version of geopolitics did not prevail. And as I said, I'm not necessarily a fan of the new guy, but kudos to him. At least, he kind of, nudged things in a better direction. But again, the question I'm raising here is that sapat pa yung ginagawa ng BBM. Baka naman kailangan yung next level yan. So I give my honest opinion about the pros and cons of the next level proposal is coming from the circle of Carpio and Tiveros. And now, you have other senators. The good one, the other one, Francis Tolentino, Triple Masters, lahat yan. Lahat sila So that's good. I like it. I appreciate it. So, yan. O, mamaya na si Bato. Mamaya natin pag-usapan si Bato. Ibang usapan yan. Alright? At pakidala yung ano ha, yung primers natin sa hypersonic para ma-update naman yung iba dyan. Meron na pong hypersonic missiles at mahirap na ano, mahirap yan yan sa mga, ang tawag po dyan missile defense system. Hindi po anti-missile missile. But anyway, ayan mo na. Pakabait na tayo. Alright! Padayon! Maraming salamat. Maraming salamat. may sasabihin na naman ako, hindi na. Pakabait na tayo. Coffee Italiano. Cafe Italiano, but in English, packaging. Yun po yung ginagawa natin. Alright. Sabi nga ni tatay, hindi siya lucky of China. On that note, let's call it a night. Maraming salamat to everyone, to all our spacers on Twitter. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you so much also for our friends, mga ka-Meta, mga ka-YouTubers. And thank you, by the way, to some of our good friends. I don't know kung gusto niya sabihin, pero yung mga good friends na minessage at finorward itong update sa akin. You know, I managed to see it a while ago because I was just writing an article about the latest in the Philippines, including the things I discussed in Senate, the Carpio proposal. And bigla kanina nakita ko sa news, I was checking kung lumabas yung article ko, nakita ko ito from Digong, no? But anyways, thank you to our good friends there. Let me end on this note. Ganito. One of the things that makes me super happy is that when it comes to the West Philippine Sea, two things happen. One is, ngayon, punta ka lang sa kalsada. Kahit sino kausapin mo, kahit anong kalsada halos, let's just, like Kalye survey, right? Almost lahat ng mga ating mga kababayan know a thing or two about West Philippine Sea. I feel so good about that. So yung mga nagsabi na walang pakihan tao sa foreign policy, that's not true. Yes, foreign policy is not a top issue every day, unlike inflation, unlike love. Wag daw love Philippines, mahal sa Pilipinas. Yun daw yung translation. Anyway, but people care. So I feel happy about that. But the second thing that makes me also very proud is that we have new generation of analysts and experts. Di pa ako matanda. But I'm so proud to see many young analysts coming in and writing on West Philippine Sea. There's so many of them that I can name. Of course, Justin Bakisal is someone I really suggest you guys to follow. Fantastic guy. He writes very well. And he's very open to alternative views, etc. Sometimes I said, I'm not sure. Very nice guy. I mean, there's so many of them. I'm sorry, I'm so bad in names, but they're all at the tip of my tongue. But I can forward you to you guys the names of some of the young rising stars. There's of course si Don McLean Gill. Yeah. Don McLean Gill. Another person I suggest you guys follow. There's oh my god. Next time, see this is so spontaneous, no? I'm just happy with this super young generation that are coming out. There are at least 5 of them that I want you guys to follow, but easily I can make it 20. So there's so many young analysts coming up. I'm so happy. And you know what, guys? Unlike some other older people who were not happy with when I was starting, I am going to be very happy with these younger generations coming up. I'm going to support it. I'm going to promote them. This is how we do it. Not Tatay style. We do it Gen Z style. Alright. Okay. Sa mga ka-millennial, mga matandang millennial. Alright? Yun lang. Supportahan natin new generation. Because these are the people who continue to carry the flag. Sabi nga ni Justice Carpio, kinda echoing Xi Jinping, kinda echoing Deng Xiaoping, sorry, Justice. The West Philippine Sea issue is a generational issue. As Justice Carpio said, it's a generational fight. So I'm super glad to see all of this young generation of analysts, si McLean Jill, ito si Justin, ang dami nila. Please follow them, support them, they're doing fantastic job. I'm super proud to see a new generation of security analysts emerging. And I'm so proud of what they did in Shanghai Dialogue. Palaban sila. Also, of course, isa sa mga minamahal natin sa gobyerno natin. There are also many people. Mahalin natin ang gobyerno natin kasi minsan may mga, more than minsan. Si Sir, for instance, Sir J. Tariela, Philippine Coast Guard spokesman. Na-interview natin yan. The interview should come out soon, hopefully. Fantastic guy, Palaban. Just go and follow him on Twitter. Support niyo, guys. Support niyo itong mga young analysts, young government officers, young mga patriots. Alright? Continue to do that. Yan pong gagawin natin. Alright? Bayern Munich. Yes! Let's go! Alright, Bundesliga. Alright. On that note, thank you very much and God bless.